The studio lights were dimmed just enough to create an intimate, honest space. Junho sat in the center of the frame, flanked by nothing but a sleek microphone, a half-full glass of water, and his own nerves. The atmosphere was unusually heavy, even for an A-lister used to both stage and screen. He was here to address rumors, or so everyone thought. It was a long time coming. For months, speculation had swirled around Junho's personal life, particularly his relationship with fellow superstar Yoona. Dating rumors, awkward fan videos, blurry airport photos, all had become daily fare on social media, dissected with surgical obsession by fans and bloggers alike. Yet, both parties had remained publicly silent. Until now. The 100-minute live broadcast was billed as a career reflection and personal insight, but the nation tuned in hoping, no, expecting, fireworks. In its early moments, however, Junho gave them anything but calm, composed, and rehearsed in tone. He navigated early questions with the poise of a seasoned performer. He spoke of upcoming projects, thanked fans, and touched on his decade-spanning journey from idol to actor. It was vintage Junho, smooth, intelligent, and ever in control. But the audience didn't log on for a promotional monologue, they wanted the truth behind the rumors. Eventually, the interviewer leaned in. "So, about Yoona." A brief smile crept across Junho's face, not one of joy, but of recognition. Had known the moment would come. He was ready. Or so it seemed. He adjusted his earpiece, took a sip of water, and simply said, "We're not dating." It was the answer many anticipated, and one tabloids wouldn't find surprising. The chemistry between them had always been electric on camera, co-hosting award shows, performing together, walking red carpets side by side, but their off-camera lives remained a mystery. Junho leaned back slightly, his body language open, almost inviting calm. "I know what people want to believe," he continued. "We've worked together closely, we've had a lot of fun moments, but there's nothing romantic between us. Never has been." The moment felt definitive, like a door being firmly closed. Twitter began to react in real time. "He said it. It's over," wrote one fan. "Just friends. Move on, people." What happened next was neither scripted nor expected, not by the audience, not by the interviewer, and perhaps, not even by Junho himself. There was a pause. Not the kind you rehearse, but the kind that creeps in when your mouth is slower than your thoughts. He glanced downward. Then, with a half-laugh, the nervous kind you give when you're about to break your own rules, he said softly, "Actually, I did confess to her once." The room went silent. The live chat on the streaming platform froze briefly, then exploded in chaos. The interviewer's eyebrows shot up. Junho looked off camera. Perhaps at a producer, perhaps at nothing at all. "I've never said that publicly," he added, almost whispering. "I wasn't planning to. But maybe it's time." Suddenly, 100 minutes felt like too little. What followed was a confession, not scandalous, not desperate, but human. Junho described a moment years ago, during one of the busiest times of his career, when his connection with Yoona shifted. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't under candlelight or during some crazy event. It was quiet. He said, "We were working on a project together, and I just started seeing her differently. I admired her before, of course, but this was something else." He paused. "Remember thinking, if I don't tell her, I'll regret it." And so, he did. One late evening after a long rehearsal, he walked her to her car, a routine part of their workdays, and said it, plainly, not flowery, not rehearsed. Said I liked her. That I wanted to get to know her outside of work. I didn't expect anything, really, just needed her to know. What she said next stayed with him. She smiled, Junho recalled. And she said, "You're one of the best people I've ever worked with. But I don't want to change what we have." There was no drama. No heartbreak, just clarity. And respect. I think I respected her more after that moment than I ever had before, Junho admitted. She was honest, she didn't lead me on, and we went right back to being friends. No awkwardness. That's rare. The live chat flooded with reactions ranging from heartbreak to admiration. "I can't believe he actually said it," wrote one user. Another added, "Is why I love them, so real. So respectful." The interview took a different tone after that, quieter, more reflective. Junho talked about how the experience humbled him. "I realized that sometimes, the most powerful connections aren't romantic. Built on trust. I've trusted Yoona with a lot. She's seen sides of me the public hasn't. I'm grateful to have her in my life." It was a raw, vulnerable look into a celebrity often known for his perfect image. In that moment, Junho wasn't an idol or a star. He was a man who once opened his heart, and gracefully accepted an answer he didn't expect. As the interview approached the 60-minute mark, asked if he ever regretted telling Yoona how he felt. Junho shook his head. "Not once. Telling her the truth helped me understand myself, and it preserved something even more valuable, our friendship." The beauty of the moment wasn't in the drama, but in its honesty. In a world fueled by speculation, Junho had offered something rare, a truth with no agenda, and yet, viewers could sense there was more to come. The way he looked off into the distance, the way he paused before answering, the way his voice dipped just slightly when speaking her name. The revelation may have been made. The emotional undercurrent had only begun to ripple. 40 minutes remaining. The host leaned in again. "What about now?" she asked. "Do you still have feelings for her?" Junho smiled, a little sad, a little warm, and said, "That is a harder question." And with that, the audience knew, part 2 of this interview wasn't just going to clarify the past, it was about to complicate the present. The studio had gone quiet again, not because of silence, but because of weight. Emotional gravity, the kind that fills a space even more than words ever could. Junho had just admitted to something no one had expected, that he once confessed his feelings to Yoona, only to be gently turned down. Alone had shifted the tone of the interview from routine media appearance to something far more raw, and possibly historic. But then came the question that took it one step further. "You still have feelings for her?" For a man trained in poise, Junho's pause was loud. It wasn't the stall of someone avoiding a question, it was the breath of someone deciding whether to bleed or to bandage. He didn't look directly at the host. Instead, he looked offstage again, as if Yoona herself might be standing behind the curtain, listening. "I don't think you ever stop admiring someone like her," he finally said, voice softer than before. "Graceful. Sharp, funny in a way most people never get to see. You don't forget someone like that, not easily." The host, now visibly invested beyond professionalism, pressed gently. "But admiration is different from. You know." Junho let out a faint laugh, a puff of breath more than humor. "Yeah. I know." He went on to explain that life in the spotlight often creates intense bonds, ones that outsiders misinterpret as romance. But sometimes, the emotion is romantic, or at least close enough that the line becomes a blur. "We spent so much time together, especially during that year when both our schedules overlapped. Same events, same interviews, same backstages. It's not hard to confuse proximity with intimacy. But in our case, it was both. I just felt it more deeply than she did." Clarified again, "I don't mean unrequited love in some dramatic, tragic way. I mean, I saw her, I felt something. She didn't, and that was okay." But the present-day question remained unanswered. So the host, after a respectful pause, tried again. "And now?" Junho adjusted his seat. The movement felt like a shield. Then, after a few seconds, "Sometimes I think, maybe the timing was wrong. Or maybe I was the right person at the wrong moment in her life." He shook his head, more to himself than anyone. "But maybe, and this is probably the truth, maybe she was never meant for me at all." The vulnerability was arresting. For a figure so carefully curated in the public eye, Junho had dismantled the wall piece by piece. In its place stood a version of himself that no PR team could have scripted. A man reckoning with his feelings, not just then, but now. The second hour of the interview unfolded, the tone shifted yet again, from revelation to reflection. The host pivoted to the aftermath of that confession. What happened between him and Yoona after he bared his feelings? Junho smiled again, this time, with unmistakable fondness. "She handled it with more grace than I deserved," He said, she never let it become weird. She never let it become gossip. Not once did she distance herself or make things uncomfortable. Instead, he said, they talked openly for hours afterward, not just about his feelings, but about fame, pressure, burnout, loneliness, subjects neither of them had dared share with many others. I think, in a way, telling her how I felt helped us trust each other more, not less. He recounted how Yoona had quietly looked out for him in the months following the confession, sending him little inside jokes on bad days, covering for him during press moments where he seemed off, ensuring he never felt isolated. She's a rare kind of person, Junho said, and even rarer in our industry. The next topic drifted toward what fans had long debated: would Junho and Yoona ever work together again? He hesitated. There's been talk, he admitted. Directors love the idea of us as a pair. The chemistry's there, everyone sees it. But he trailed off, and then, unexpectedly, added, I think part of me is afraid. The host leaned forward, intrigued. Afraid of what? That it'll stir things back up, that I'll fall back into feelings I thought I'd managed, that she'll feel pressured, or worse, misrepresented. He sighed. Because it's never just work. And it's her. It never was. This was no longer just an interview, it was confession, memory, regret, and reverence all braided into a single, unforgettable hour. And as Junho spoke, millions watched in silence, perhaps realizing that even celebrities carry unanswered questions under the brightest lights. But the story wasn't Junho's alone. The name on everyone's lips now was Yoona, the woman at the center of this emotional storm. The host finally asked the inevitable, does she know you're talking about this tonight? Junho smiled, but it wasn't the smile of certainty. Didn't ask her permission, he admitted. I probably should have. But I think I just needed to say it, after holding it in for so long. He paused. She might be mad, or she might be okay with it. I don't know, but I wanted to tell the truth. Just once, for me. For closure, maybe. Closure, the word hung in the air like perfume. Beautiful, temporary. And gone too soon. In the final moments of the broadcast, Junho turned toward the camera, not toward the host, not toward the crowd, but toward something far more specific. It felt as though he was speaking to someone, and he was. I hope she knows that no matter what I said tonight, nothing changes my respect for her. She's still one of the brightest people I've ever met. I hope she shines, always, with or without me in the picture. The host, now visibly emotional, chose not to press further. The screen slowly faded to black, and the words "thank you for watching" appeared in soft white text. But the audience wasn't done. Within minutes, social media lit up with trending hashtags. #Junho confession, #Yoona bombshell, #respect Yoona Junho, we all felt that. Some fans wept. Some speculated whether Yoona would respond. Some dug through old fan cams, rewatching every eye contact, every smile, every moment with new meaning. And yet, beyond the frenzy, beyond the headlines, beyond the chaos of celebrity fandom, something universal had happened. A man had loved. A woman had responded with honesty, and both had carried that quiet moment through years of spotlight and silence, until it finally, gently, surfaced. We may never know how Yoona felt watching the interview. Perhaps she was shocked, perhaps she was moved, perhaps she was simply sipping tea, unfazed, as her name broke the internet once again. One thing is clear. Junho's confession wasn't about reigniting a love story. It was about acknowledging a truth, one that needed no ending to have meaning. And in a world starved for authenticity, that may have been the most shocking bombshell